Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Vany Ardindi Putri. You can call me Vany. I'm from Chemistry Education Study Program, and today I want presentation to you about my final exam and from course English for Chemistry, and my final exam is make a essay from my topic, and my topic is chemical formula, and then my supporting lecture is Miss Zonalia Fitriza. Okay, before I explain to you about my essay, I will tell you about the structure of essay. The structure of essay, the first is introduction, and the second is the body, and the last is conclusion. Okay, in my essay, I have a 4 paragraph, and the first paragraph is thesis statement, and the second is explanation thesis statement 1, and the third explanation thesis statement 2, and the last is conclusion. In the first paragraph is introduction from my essay. I use the background sentence, and the sentence is: stoichiometry is a branch of chemistry that studies the quantity of product and reactant in chemical reaction. In a chemical reaction, there are several compounds that react. Of course, the compound is composed of several atoms. To find out the types and number of atoms contained in a compound, we need to study the chemical formula. The chemical formula functions to express the types and relative number of atoms contained in this compound, and then the number that expresses the number of atoms of an element in a chemical formula is called the index number. And the last sentence from this paragraph is my thesis statement. And the sentence is: the chemical formula can be determined in various ways, including molar mass and molecular mass. So, in my thesis statement, I have 2 reasons, and I will explain the reason in the next paragraph. In the second paragraph, I will explain to you how we determine the empirical formula from the molar ratio. The empirical formula can be determined from the molar ratio of each element of a compound. To determine the moles of an element, we must know the elemental mass of the compound and also the relative molecular mass of each element. Because with the elemental mass and the relative molecular mass, we can determine the mole. Then after that, we make ratio from mole. And I know what the empirical formula from the compound. And the third paragraph, I will explain to you how we determine the molecular formula from molecular mass and empirical formula. The molecular formula can be determined from the empirical formula and also from the molecular mass of the compound. The empirical formula is formula that has a very simple index number so that you can determine the molecular formula from the empirical formula. But there are some compounds whose molecular formula is the same as the empirical formula, and usually this is found in ionic compounds. It is stated the same if the molecular mass is equal to the calculated empirical formula mass. So, the empirical formula is also a molecular formula. Otherwise, the molecular mass of the experiment will be a multiple integer multiple of the value calculated from the empirical formula. Whatever the whole number, it is a common multiplier for the subscript of the empirical formula. In conclusion from my essay is, there are several ways that can be used in determining chemical formula, such as determining the empirical formula. of a compound with mole ratio, and after that we can determine the empirical formula. We will also be able to determine the molecular formula using the relative molecular mass in the empirical formula with a common multiplier compared to the relative molecular mass of the molecular formula. So that in the above method we will easily determine the chemical formula of a compound. Okay, I think that's all for me. Sorry for my mistake. And thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.